Welcome back to Unlabelled and Limitless. I am your host, Lois and today we are closing our three-part series on rest with a conversation that takes us a little farther from home. I am joined by Ian as we talk about travel, perspective, global neuroinclusion, and the unexpected ways rest shows up in our lives, from mountain views to meaningful design choices in other countries. We also explore how nature, adrenaline, and a change of environment can shift our nervous systems in ways we do not always expect. Let us get into part three.
Welcome to today's episode of Unlabelled and Limitless. I am your host, Lois Bainham, and I'm joined by my co host.
Ian Bainham,
Thank you.
autistic extraordinaire.
I didn't tell him that we were going to do that. That's a good example of putting somebody on the spot and them having a little bit of a brain fart as to, oh shit, what am I supposed to do? We've been running a series of podcasts and writing a series of blogs about rest and the importance of rest. And it's one of our company values. We want people to be well on the inside and the outside, and we want them to find that rhythm in life that works for them so that people aren't existing in constant burnout. I know you and I have had friendly banter about the fact that you go and burn out quite frequently and don't tend to rest, especially when you're in that hyper focus mode. And you're definitely not alone in that. I experience that too. Obviously, we're in different situations, different locations, and we go about the world in different ways. I started meditating, which I had a great conversation with Faye about a few days ago. We were looking at the psychological importance of rest and how rest isn't just sleeping or going on a holiday once a year. It's actually kind of a lifestyle that you have to build in, and it's techniques and tools that you have to practice, right, on a regular basis. Because, especially for people with ADHD, it's really hard for us to build sustainable habits. Because for us, it's a hobby until we master it, and then it's on to the next thing. So, what I'm interested in hearing from you is, how was your very long overdue holiday to Argentina, and what kind of rest did you get while you were there?
Got plenty of rest.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah, I think the interesting part really with all of it is how long it takes to get there. Yes, you can fly direct, but it's very select flights. So, what you tend to be looking at is a 20 to 26 hours trip, door to door.
Yeah.
That said, it was at a time when it was starting to get cold in the UK. So going into somewhere where it's spring, summer, and you've got people saying, bring some jumpers because it's still quite cold and it's 26 degrees and 30 degrees on some days. It was t-shirt weather for most of it. I think probably the coldest time was up in the Andes, going out to the ski resorts where you're on top of the mountain and it is exposed and you have the high winds coming.
Right.
Yeah, it was a bit chilly, but being able to see everything, the lakes, the mountains, so much calm, so much peace. And especially after this year has been frantic with so many different things going on. So, yeah, it was good to be able to step back and rest. Normally in situations like that, I do find it very difficult to switch off. But it was just enough to keep things ticking over, things that were a bit busy, but also having a bit of that freedom of, do you know what, I want to go out and sit and have a coffee, and explore, walk around, and eat kilos of ice cream.
You were over there for your stepdaughter's wedding. It was a family event, right? And our mum traveled with you and your wife, Carla. You had family time, seeing people you hadn't seen in a while. spending time with Carla's family, with the children. You went away to have a vacation while you were there. In terms of your energy levels, were you able to find ways to relax and refresh your mind during the travels? Or did you sleep the entire way, or were you just too excited?
I didn't sleep the entire way. As soon as I was on the plane, I was on the in-flight entertainment. I'd sorted the films out and I was just ready back to back. I dozed off through a couple of them, but mostly because they were a bit dull, a bit boring. There was drama on the plane as well. That was interesting.
What kind of drama?
On the flight out, it wasn't a very new 747. So a lot of the seats were broken. I think for Mom, that was probably the worst one because she was sat there with a seat that didn't recline, but a headphone socket that didn't exist either, so she couldn't watch anything. She could only watch the little plane going over the screen for 20 hours.
Oh, geez.
But the person in front of me, their seat came down onto my knee. So it overextended, almost folding out into a bed, and mine didn't go anywhere. There was the room then. It was very claustrophobic. We did ask her to meet halfway, just put a seat up to where it would normally go to, but she refused. Then cabin crew got involved, and fair play to them. They were very quick, very efficient. Her initial comment was, oh, everybody's entitled to put the seat back, which is fine. No issues with that, but not when it goes all the way down and you can't move your seats to match it. I think as soon as she realised that, they actually found the person another seat. So that made it a bit more of a comfortable trip over. Okay. The flight back was slightly different. It was a newer plane, so everything seemed to work okay.
Those little things can make a really huge difference to travel, especially if you're going a long distance. When we flew from New York to Hawaii, it was a direct flight. On the way back, we went to San Jose and then back to New York. So it was an 11-hour flight. The only food they gave us was a weird hummus sandwich. There wasn't an actual meal on the plane. It was just like a rinky-dink older plane and not what I've been used to in more recent years with some of the newer planes. Now that I feel a lot better and I'm a lot more positive, I'm a lot more tolerant of people's lack of situational and spatial awareness when out and about in public. But there have been times when it's just like, my pet peeve is not that somebody's putting their seat back, but that they don't look to see whether you've got something there, whether you're bending over or anything like that. And they just fling the seat back. I've had drinks spilled on me. My laptop screen almost cracked. And I've seen that tons on social media where people's devices or clothing or whatever gets damaged because the person in front is a dick and doesn't think about somebody else. And the other thing I hate, and I say this as somebody with ADHD that cannot sit still, I hate it when somebody's like this the entire way and just keep bumping into their seat. The solution to that is, if and when I can afford it, I fly Comfort Plus or Premium so that you naturally have more leg room, so the recline isn't as annoying. In a lot of the premiums now, they have these little footrests in front as well. This is comfortable.
So what do you think to some of the airlines I've seen in the news recently where they're trialing or looking at the standing seats?
If it's a 30-minute flight, like from inner city, intercity flights or something in America, like New York to Boston, I don't want to be standing up for all that time. Jeez.
You're not stood up. There is a bit of a seat, but it's more of a squat than it is.
No, thank you. I want an actual seat. If I've got the airline miles or the tickets aren't insane or there's a special, sometimes you'll get an economy ticket and then they'll be like, hey, for this many points, you can go premium. And I'll be like, thank you. You get the cheap upgrade with your points. I just do that because you get to get on the plane first. You have more room for your bags. They give you Prosecco.
See, yeah.
There's less to worry about.
We did pay a little bit extra just for the window seat. I always have a window seat. I hate being on the aisle where people walk past and knock you. I hate being in the middle seat where you've got somebody either side. And the window seat's ideal for me because as soon as I get in that seat, that is me. I do not move for the entire flight.
Well, that's dangerous.
I stand to shake off my legs, but I don't make everybody in the aisle move to let me out.
Yeah, but that's like literally you'll get deep vein thrombosis from that. Or like you got to wear compression socks if you're not going to walk around, especially if you're on an aeroplane for 20 hours. I mean, not if you go in for like a 4-hour flight, but a 20-hour flight, not getting out of your seat, not healthy in any way, shape, or form.
I can do exercises. I do get to stretch. I'm not saying that I don't move. I'm just saying that I don't move out into the aisle or anything.
I'm sitting on a yoga ball right now with my foot on a chair. Drink lots of water on flights. Go to the bathroom just so you can walk up and down the plane if you're going to be on it that long. Anyway,
it won't matter soon because if we're standing for hour flights or 2-hour flights, you've got all that standing room anyway.
Best airline I've traveled with in recent history is definitely Singapore Airlines. They have an adult only section that is economy, but it's upstairs on one of the double-decker planes. I got to be in adult only economy where you can watch adult films and stuff. By adult films, I mean like I was watching Django Unchained and stuff like that. Like in the downstairs bit, they don't have access to those types of films for the children. It was absolutely wonderful. And the seats were nice and cozy. How they treated you throughout the entire flight was amazing. And yeah, everybody just get up and walk around and do their thing and then sit back down. I like the aisle seat because I can't sit still. So I want the aisle seat so that I can get up whenever I want to and walk up and down the aisle. I am very mindful about how I walk up and down the aisle.
Isn't it? I don't believe you. I think it's interesting that, that different mindsets and different focus and everything. Even something as simple and straightforward as that, the seat. There's preferences for a reason.
Yeah.
But who decides they want to be sat between two people?
Brian takes a middle seat. Because Carla took a middle seat on the plane.
Yes.
Yeah, Carla and Brian, the people that travel with us, take the middle seat because they sacrifice for our preferences. If Brian needs to climb over me, if I'm asleep, who cares? We can lift the handle between us. We've got a link for our earbuds, or we'll put the movies on at the same time and get it to the same point. We'll watch the movie with our stuff. And if I want to move up and put my legs up on him, I can do that. If I want to get myself into a weird position and put my head on his legs, I can do that. So yeah, me and Brian takes a middle seat. Awkward for the person sitting in the window seat if they need to get up. They'll go climb over us both, but we don't mind.
You see, that's why you need autistics, because we'd just sit and not move. Everybody would be happy and comfortable.
I used to really get pissed off about stuff like that, but as I've become more logical, like even babies screaming the entire time, I used to be like, oh my God, that baby, they're doing this to me. But now I'm like, that baby's probably got really bad pain in their ears. They've got no idea what's going on. They can't comprehend the environment. Their parent is probably sitting there horrified, knowing everybody hates them. Let me have a little bit of empathy here. And guess what? I can just pretend that baby is not crying because I've got noise cancelling headphones. I can just mind my own business and it'll become background noise eventually, and it does. So yeah, I'm a lot more forgiving of people, but not assholes or just really stupid people on planes, because they still really annoy me.
I remember coming back from Egypt with the girls in the airport. They were really inclusive when it came to the seating, because they asked if there was anything there, and for the girls it was kind of the sensory thing. And they said, it's not a full flight, so we'll seat you towards the back where it's quiet. That was brilliant. On the flight, 2 mothers with screaming babies were sat further down, and they decided, just to make sure that people at the front weren't impacted by that they'd moved the 2 mothers with the screaming babies right up behind us. Lesson learned: travel with noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah.
I had my headphones fully charged, my big headphones. I had my earpods fully charged, and I had my Samsung ones fully charged. So I had 3 sets of fully charged headphones just in case I needed them.
You've got to make sure your headphones are at full battery before you leave an airport or somewhere busy. I don't wear them around New York City or in the subways. I like listening to my surroundings and hearing conversations or the noise of the city. But if I'm traveling, I'm going to be on a plane or somewhere where I might want to watch something, including my phone, then fully charged. So when you got to Argentina, I know you'd mentioned they seem to be making some really cool progress in their inclusion initiatives. Do you want to tell me about that?
I was taken aback by how much they're doing there and how much they've got. When you speak to the locals, there's a lot more progression in places that have money. That's something that is probably very similar across the world. So I was seeing autism-friendly cafes that were openly advertising that they were autism-friendly. Going into one, you could see why. The staff were all on the spectrum. You could see that when that place fills up, that people are going to talk. There's nobody treating it like a library. But you have an area outside where the seating and the walls, it was quiet and it was quite intimate in that respect. Even the menus and everything there and how it displayed the information.
I thought you were going to say that they served autism platters of chicken fingers, like chicken nuggets, mozzarella sticks, and anything beige and friable or bakeable, but no. You mean the actual menu. So what was it about the menu that made it like super autism friendly and accessible?
Because it wasn't just a case of reading, you also had the pictures there as well. Okay. So you could see what they were serving. In addition to that, within the cafe itself, there was just something that was different about it. It felt more accommodating to various needs. Reading the menus and everything, the prices were all clear. Everything was laid out in a structure that was easy to read.
So what you're saying is it's not like your Friday night takeaway menu that comes with those little pictures on some faded printed piece of paper that kind of gives you an idea of what it might look like, but isn't what turns up at your house. This is more like, okay, I can see what this thing looks like, how it's going to come. They tell me exactly. Do they give you texture and things like that? Or are they just like...
I mean, they give you the full list of ingredients. So there was various other things, that toilets for dogs. One is the toilet for dogs, but also for people that have dogs that are out walking them and need an accessible toilet. And also in the actual stalls, they have seating for children in both the men's and women's, so that if you're taking a baby in and you need to go, there's a little high seat that pulls down. You're not having to try and juggle a baby or a pram. Those little things can make so much difference. Because for some people, it's just listening and seeing that and thinking, actually, do you know what? They're trying to make an effort. They're trying to do something here.
So something I notice as I travel to different places, every culture you go to, you see something different because you're looking with outsiders' eyes. You learn something new. you dispel myths and create new ones, right? Or you see these things that you're like, wow, that's actually really progressive, or that's just smart. Having dog toilets is something I have thought about for the longest. Why can't we have dog toilets where dogs can go and that waste is taking the same place our waste is instead of being on the sidewalk or the street? That would be a really great idea. I think what you tend to find as well is, depending whether you live in a real kind of like Western capitalistic individualist society versus a kind of more socialistic in regards to community, family, like things like that, right? I think you do get a lot more thoughtful accommodations because those cultures are about the we, not the I, right? Whereas like in the UK, in America, in wherever, we've created these systems that our government is all about I and what they can get done. There's so much red tape, bureaucracy, and stupidity involved in decisions that, while they seemed minor, could have such an impact either on the environment, on the people using the environment, etc. And it's absolutely nuts, right? Like they'll have committees to vote on these things, and then it'll be like, oh, health and safety. I get that those things are important. Meanwhile, there's these really basic solutions, like changing how you deliver a menu or creating spaces where people can communicate openly because they feel comfortable. It's just so much easier than everybody makes it out to be. You got to get government for this and do this for that. Meanwhile, people in other countries and more about, okay, here's an issue or here's something that needs input. Let's go and do it. I see more creative enterprises coming out of somewhere like Harlem to tackle social issues than I do Midtown Manhattan, because they are not having the same social issues. If you want to solve social issues, you go where those social issues are. So what else did they do that was notable and accessible?
So just on the point you mentioned there around governments and accessible and everything, the new autism strategy came out. The autism report came out in the UK yesterday, and it's absolutely damning in terms of failures and everything from the 2009 Autism Act. There's still a lot of work to do. The focus was on autism rather than looking at neurodiversity as a whole. But that is where there's still the biggest gap, the lowest employment rates. You are still only looking at 15-16% of autistic people in full-time employment. It's the lowest of all groups. I think there's a lot of hands gone up to say that, yes, there's been a lot of failures. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done ahead of next year and new strategies moving forward. I just wanted to throw that in there since that released yesterday. But it was just you mentioning around governments and accountabilities and everything that we're very behind.
I currently live in a country where there's no clear science to show that vaccines did not cause autism. And hey, maybe it's Tylenol. I have not seen the UK news because the news over here is already just, it's a lot to take and it's a lot for us to unpack, right? Our mission is to educate people, to give them that platform to learn about us as human beings that exist in this world with these conditions, with these differences, not with the quote unquote deficits that they're trying to fix or even work out of the gene pool. Tell me that's not eugenics, right? It's like, oh, we need to get this out of our gene pool and now we found the cure to it. We're not going to get into politics.
No.
Policy over politics.
Yeah. You're completely correct in the sense that there is far more money invested in research for trying to identify root causes and cures than there is changing the environment and putting those things in place. And I just thought that tied in nicely to the fact that somewhere like Argentina, to all intents and purposes, a developing country. In a lot of ways, it's far more developed than here, and in a lot of other ways, it's more underdeveloped. That's where I think the crux of it is when you are seeing things, even small things happening. Let's say just having accessible toilets, just having autism-friendly cafes. You might seem like, oh, well, that's simple. Why everyone can do that? But for a country that is behind, it shows that those places are catching up. And that's something I would love to explore more on some of the research around what other countries are doing. Wherever they are in the world, their understanding and their acceptance. And I know for a lot of countries, a lot still lead with the medical model and a deficit model rather than a strengths model. But understanding what is going into place and how things are starting to come together and how countries are starting to see that and shifting the balance, because things do need to change. You get a lot of disjointedness. So it would be great if you've got countries like Argentina, in the Middle East, Australia, Asia, all starting to do those little things that become more of a norm and a consistent thing globally. I think that's going to have a bigger impact, a more welcoming impact, because it will then put pressure on places that don't necessarily do anything because they need to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a really good point there. It's interesting, right? As you kind of have the privilege of, and I say the privilege, that a lot of people haven't seen some of the places we've seen in life. As adults, can't go to those places, right? Yes, we have to save for it. Yes, we both work hard and things like that. But we've exposed to cultures that isn't just like a 2-week holiday where we lay on a beach and do whatever. We've been welcomed into these different kind of situations throughout our lives.
We've lived amongst tribes.
Adaptation is what humans do. We evolve, we adapt to our environment and make the best of what we've got, right? Because it isn't about sustaining something that we can't stop. So it's like you've got to flex and adapt to the new things, to the new environments and things like that. When you talk about the number of people with autism that are unemployed, that are suicidal, that struggle with mental health problems, that struggle with social problems like loneliness. It doesn't take much for us to tweak those environments. And it doesn't take much for us to actually go somewhere and say, do you know what? That's a really good idea. Let's work together in partnership and bring that idea here, right? But again, all that bureaucracy that, oh, well, that wouldn't work here because of whatever. I know when I talked to Kay very early on in Unlabelled days, she was saying to me, oh, but you live in America and Ian's in the UK and you have all these resources and things. And I said to her, like, I'm just going to stop you right there. Because from what I've heard about what you've had access to in the Philippines, what you're doing there, how you're raising your daughter and the level of support the school system is giving you absolutely knocks spots off anything I've heard about in America or the UK, unless somebody's got $50,000 or pounds a year to pay for an ultra private education that specializes in it. We're very early in our acceptance of this, but it's like, wow, I want to come to the Philippines and learn more about where this is being informed and how it's being informed, because we could do with some of that here in our public schools, because our public schools are kind of failing these kids, right? Cultures that care about how systems impact their people, which is a lot of the Eastern cultures when we look at the Eastern world versus the Western world. If somebody's failing, it's because society hasn't built the right system. So it's society's fault, not the person's. Whereas in our societies, if you're failing, that's on you. Eastern culture isn't like that. They say, if we have this problem here, we haven't done something as a community, and now we need to step in and do that. I do think that in the West, we're super advanced, we're super smart, we've got all of this shit figured out. And then you go to these countries, and a lot of people are shocked because, in actual fact, they're figuring it out and it looks very different. And it is like, oh shit, how come we don't have that? But a lot of people don't get that experience to travel and see that those things exist out there, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Growing up with that, it was something that has always been in my head. You want to take the best experiences away from something. Growing up in those environments, there was that community, there was that level of safety. You always felt safe. I mean, I think, what was it, Indonesia? You had tribespeople, you had headhunters that would look after you as babysitters. Those things don't carry on anymore, but that was the tribes.
It was the 80s. Our
Yeah.
parents didn't know better.
But that's what I mean. People go, oh, there was that level of safety because there was that community. There was also very little. It wasn't having loads of money, TVs. You were in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a jungle.
Yeah.
You had that safety, you had that community. I think that was one thing that led to me traveling, which is why I couldn't stay still. It was always searching for more and refusing to accept just what was put in front of me. I brought up the autism report because more people are waking up to neuroinclusion. More people are saying that it's not enough for organisations and businesses just to do a token gesture. They have, and I think that's the same kind of thing that's going on there as more starts to get seen across the world of what places are doing and how they're supporting people. Even a small advance in a country that you wouldn't necessarily expect is still a major advantage. As neuroinclusion starts to take form and grow, I think there'll be more voices that join in with that and more people that start to actually shape that. They start to share and go, that would work, that would be really good, that would be wonderful. And make the world a better place as a community and as a collective, creating that safe environment for everybody. So
Very much.
I think what we learned during our travels are things that I'm quite optimistic and hopeful enough people are starting to understand more and be able to shape it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here in New York City, and New York City is the crossroads of the world, right? We have so many nationalities, types of food, cultures, subcultures here. It's like a huge mixing pot. So we don't have the same level of fear about certain things that people that aren't exposed to this world have. However, this isn't the entire world. This is a very specific part of the world that has multiculturalism as part of the culture, which doesn't exist in most places. You do really have to go and visit and immerse yourself sometimes in other places if you're able to do it. Even if it's within your own country, just go somewhere different and meet a different group of people like you and explore it. I think we're about at the end for today. So I'm going to hand over to you for any closing remarks.
You love dropping it on me, don't you? I can't think of any closing remarks.
How good did it feel to actually be able to take a break and switch off and immerse yourself in something different?
I didn't switch off, but I switched focus. But I think being able to do that, forget about the pressure and stress of day-to-day life, was really good. Because there was more control over what you did want to focus on and how you wanted to focus on it. So I think that did make a big difference.
And did you find it, like, as you kept letting go, did you find that dots that you didn't realize were connected from the last few weeks would randomly come to you and you'd go, oh, right, I get that now. I can put that thought to bed. Let me go change how I'm thinking about this, because now, like, I see that differently because I feel rested.
I think there was a bit of both. That was starting to happen there as well. But what I tried to do was shut anything that was coming through that I'd taken with me out. And every now and again, I'd think through something and process through something. But it was more around having that control. So coming back, I was able to, now let's get this sorted, let's do this. So I think it was being able to use that time effectively and selectively, because I think sometimes you do have to take that step back to see the bigger picture.
My final thought is something you said at the very beginning, because something that's really important to helping us feel rested is our sense of appreciation, gratitude, and joy. One of the first things you said was it was nice to be able, like in the Andes, to stand at the top of it all and look down on that lake and the water and the mountains and things like that. And I just want to pinpoint that moment, because a really important part of rest is giving yourself a moment to experience something in nature and have gratitude for the beauty around you. One of the things anecdotally that you see a lot is that nature is the best healer for people with ADHD, autism, neurological differences, and mental health diagnoses, right? So I just wanted to raise that, because that ability to feel gratitude is so important to our general well-being, to be able to get a dose of that while you're away and really be able to see those little things around you and those little details in life that you're like, that's a really good idea, is really cool.
So the one thing I've always said, that when it came to sports, hobbies, anything you mentioned earlier about meditation, my thing, and I haven't done it for a while, it was parachuting. When you leave the plane, you have the entire world below you, and it is so small, and there are so many little problems and everything. People argue. There's so much going on below you that it's so insignificant. But also, because of your chute, you have control of your own destiny. So, your life is in your hands at that moment, and everything is so insignificant. Not in a sinister way. I'm just saying that.
It depends who's been with your equipment.
Yeah. No,
I watch
it's
crime
that
dramas.
you are in control. So at the times when you feel that you have no control in your life, those were the moments where the control was put back in your hand. And then if I'm not leaping out of planes, I was scuba diving. And that was just being there with the ocean. The other thing was skiing. Between parachuting, skiing, and scuba diving, those are my three favorite activities if I had to choose what I was doing.
I would go with the scuba diving and the skiing. I absolutely do not have any inclination to jump out of a plane ever. Thank you. For me, cycling is parachuting, especially in New York City. When you take your bike onto the streets of New York and ride anywhere, you are taking your life into your own hands, because drivers here they don't look, they open car doors, they do U-turns when you don't expect it as a cyclist. I've been hit by buses, taxis, cyclists, whatever. I'm like a magnet for people running lights that decide to tap me with their vehicles. Luckily, I've escaped unscathed. In that moment, it's me and the insane drivers of New York City. They're protected and I'm not. So I ride like my life depends on it, because it does. But at the same time, cyclists are super friendly, way friendlier than runners. Cyclists wave at each other and acknowledge each other and say hi and stuff. There's a bit more camaraderie. But also, you're passing life and you're actually seeing it, because you have to observe everything. So you get to see some insane shit. And because you're on a bike, you have perspective. Like the stuff I've seen cops doing in cars, people doing in cars, kids doing. I've seen a lot of people doing shit they shouldn't be doing just by cycling past their windows. That is my parachuting, and that's my adrenaline, is riding my bike, especially through dangerous areas, like the time I got chased in Yonkers after I cycled past the chop shop accidentally. And you're 20 minutes late for your evening appointment, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join me to continue this conversation about rest and recuperation and how important it is. And we will chat again soon. Join us for the next Unlabelled and Limitless. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.